for the disparity study later this year, and hopefully we will reward a firm to start that process, which will take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years, depending on the size of the organization. And to be candid with you, seeing how Gwinnett is a $2 billion plus organization with 5,700 plus employees, I believe it's going to take closer to 2 years and 18 months. I can't hear you.
We have we have been asking for this disparity study day one in January 1st, 2021. And because it shows that the RFPs in Gwinnett County, only 14% of it goes to minority vendors. And that's a number when you have over 50% of the county, um, that's where 50% of the counties have minority people and African American, Black, and other people of color there, and only 14% of the contracts are awarded. That's a problem. That's a problem.
No, no, no.
And
I think you're exactly right. It is a problem, and it's something that this board needs to work deliberately to address. Um, and look, we all know that historically, African Americans had problems getting employment, getting work in the private sector or corporate America, and we turned to the public sector to try to be that refuge. And there's plenty of examples of what can be done when you do vendor participation right. And look no further than the city of Atlanta, what Maynard Jackson was able to do, creating a couple dozen Black millionaires, giving them the opportunity to get city work and creating wealth in the community in the Atlanta area. So, look, I couldn't agree with you more. And I know it's taken longer than we would have, personally, than I would have liked. But I guess what I'm trying to get across to y'all today is that I'm confident that progress is being made on this issue.
well, you made a great reference to Mayor Maynard Jackson because he was not afraid to say that if African Americans and other Black people were not awarded contracts when he was mayor, that there was a problem because he saw the disparities, he saw the balance, the economic imbalance of power,
Mhm.
and that again is his stance. Why is it that our community is afraid to specifically say that others, people who have been economically and systemically not given the opportunities of others, why is it so hard for African Americans to say we deserve parity, we deserve equity, when other ethnicities take power, when they become in charge, there is no qualm about speaking up. Why is this so hard for Gwinnett County when we had a board on January 1st, 2021, that had four African Americans, and one Asian gentleman? Why is that so hard to say? Why are those words so frightening to politicians?
Well,
Not
well,
all, but African American politicians.
Penny, look, first off, I can't speak for anybody but myself, right? And then second, I agree with you on the issue. I even campaigned on doing a disparity study, but you have to remember that I'm one of five, and that going back to the last comments I just said, I think as a county as diverse as Gwinnett, we can do a better job of knocking down those barriers and giving ethnic groups and diverse and disenfranchised groups an opportunity. That's all it is, no handout, but an opportunity to get county work. However, before we can begin to create an ordinance that works to set those goals, to knock down those barriers, we have to have the lawful process of creating that disparity study. And as I said before, it's unfortunate that it's taken as long as it has, but I'm here to tell you we are making progress on that issue. Now, with that said, as I said before, I can't speak to other politicians and their stance on this issue or their comfort of speaking on the issue. I can only speak for myself. And I'm quite comfortable speaking on it because I know the people that put me in office would like to see that happen, right? And that's what motivates me to do the job that I do and try to advance these issues and fairness and equity in the workplace in Gwinnett County, Georgia.
Well, I know that in 2024, when this pivotal election comes up, that will be the number one question from the Gwinnett NAACP as to why um, we are afraid to speak about parity for African Americans and Black people when other ethnicities, when other segments of the populations, let's say Jewish, Asian, um, uh, just everyone, LGBTQ will speak up. But when we speak up, we are somehow vilified. I know that this will be on the top of our plate to make sure that we can ask these questions, not only of the board chair of the commission, but we want to ask this to everyone running. We have all sorts of promises that were made, but when we ask these questions, it gets quiet. Um, I know another concern is housing in Gwinnett County. We see neighborhoods like Lawrenceville as our last example that has been gentrified. What has the county done to bring housing back to Lawrenceville? The historic African American community has been disassembled, and new housing has appeared, but none that is affordable. What housing plans do they have for African Americans in Gwinnett County
Well, let me.
from the Board of Commission where
So,
you are part of?
so before I answer the housing part, I do want to touch on one more thing that you touched on, and that look, the disparity study is one issue that affects African American business owners as well as women, veterans, and all those protected groups. But to be candid and to be clear, as a Black politician here in Gwinnett County, Georgia, we have delivered on a number of different policy things that I did campaign on, and others that we were able to get board support in a short duration of time and get it passed when we were in office. Whether it was the Crown Act, whether it was removing the Confederate monument, passing a resolution on that in the first month and getting it removed the first February we're in office, or, which has been a little bit slower, but it's taken place over time, making strategic diverse appointments or hires in the county organization. What I'm getting at is progress is incremental. This is year number 3. We hear you loud and clear, and we are working deliberately to make advancements in county government. But it will take time. And the disparity study is one of those issues in which it has taken time. Now, let me pivot to the housing issue.
Well, let me stop you a minute before we go there, because you said some very interesting things just now. You spoke about different things that were accomplished. Let's elaborate on the. I know some things that went before the board. As a matter of fact, the decriminalization of marijuana went before the board.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, it did.
And that failed. And can you elaborate on that vote?
Well, it failed 3-2 with myself and Commissioner Koo voting for it. And what it would have done was, I can't remember the exact section in the county ordinance, but as it reads today, you can spend up to a year in jail, pay a steep fine, and be on probation if you have an ounce or less of marijuana. Currently, our local prosecutor, the Solicitor General, as started with Brian Whiteside, chose not to prosecute these cases. Also, too, there were some issues with the testing of marijuana in small amounts. So going back to 2018, maybe 2019, I think it was 2019, the county's police force stopped prosecuting these cases. Maybe it was 18. I can't remember. It was 18 or 19. Don't hold me to it. What myself and Commissioner Koo tried to do was update the county ordinance to reflect the policy. So that means if there's an ordinance in place and it's no longer being practiced like that, i.e. we're not prosecuting people for marijuana offenses, my goal was to update the county ordinance to reflect that. Also, what was added in the legislation that it doesn't read today is that a probate court judge would have the ability to put a youth or a young person in a drug rehabilitation course. Currently, it does not read that way. So my goal was trying to, again, an important issue to many young people, playing communities of color, trying to make advancements on decriminalization of marijuana, criminal justice reform. Unfortunately, didn't get passed. Now, with that said, as with some of these issues, I did my part, right? But you have 5 commissioners and you need a majority of 3 to get anything passed by a board. So where it stands, I believe it was tabled, so different agencies can review it. That was more than 2 years ago. So if this is an issue that's important to you, I suggest that you reach out to the Board of Commissioners, your individual commissioner, and ask them where they stand on that. We did get a new commissioner, Matthew Holtkamp, who is there now, who wasn't there to the prior votes. So I would think this is an opportunity to ask him where he stands on this issue.
Wonderful, because these issues, they're very important, especially to our young people, where lives have been devastated with arrests for minimal amounts of marijuana that has just changed people's trajectory.
It derails lives. And I don't mean to ramble on, but the current ordinance today reads, if you get caught with an ounce, you can pay $1,000 fine, do 12 months of probation. And the ordinance we had capped it to 150. You do 20 hours of community service. And then there was the drug course available for young people. So again, this is important because if you get a new Solicitor General that chooses to practice the law as written, you go back to locking people up for small amounts of marijuana. If and when they get a new test where they can vary between marijuana and hemp, we're going back to locking people up for small amounts of marijuana. So this is why it's so important to change the law. Again, you talk about Trump in your comments earlier. We're a nation of laws. If you don't like a law or an ordinance, you don't ignore it, you change it. And that was our attempt to do that. So again, if this issue is important to you, reach out to your commissioners and let them know where you stand on this issue.
Thank you for that. We are just talking about some of everything right now. The list is so long, and with Gwinnett County having over 300,000 plus African American and Black people in this county, a lot of these laws are very, very pertinent to our community. I know we talked a little bit about the disparity studies. We talked about the decriminalization of marijuana. We spoke some more about the removal of a Confederate statue. Brian Whiteside, who was the Solicitor General, was not returned to office for some of the stances that he took because he was actually running on the platform and standing for the platform that he spoke about. So we want to make sure that everyone out there who is watching this, tell your friends, tell your families, you need to show up at these meetings on I know the first Tuesday of the month. And let me do this. Commissioner Carden, can you please tell us when these meetings are held so that people can come and give their voice and their input? When are these meetings held?
Yes, ma'am. So we have our business meetings. Oh, so let me rewind. We have our work session and business meetings the first and third Tuesdays of each month, with the one exception being July, where we take that first Tuesday off because of summer vacation. But on the first and third Tuesdays at 10 a.m., we have our work session where the board creates the consent agenda. And then at 2 p.m., we have our business meeting where we vote on the consent agenda, we do proclamations, and at the very end of the meeting, we'll take public comment where everybody will have 3 minutes to speak on an item. We do some briefings, informal briefings or conversations throughout the day, but it's usually briefings from staff, no formal actions taken. We also meet the fourth Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m., and that's where we do the land use and rezoning. And I think a lot of times that part of the job is overlooked, but when you do land use and zoning, you really shape the way a community looks for decades. So that's very important. And we also give people an opportunity to speak at the end of that meeting. But like I said, that meeting starts at 7, so it can run pretty late.
One of the things that has been happening forever, and we were hoping that when we had our new BOC chairwoman come into office, that these meeting times would be looked at. The idea that a business meeting is held 2 o'clock in the day when most people are at work already shows that it does not mean to have the average citizen able to contribute or attend to or to input into this system. And Gwinnett has been notorious for holding meetings when people are unable to attend. What do you see? This is really huge. Is this something that you can talk about or something
Yeah.
that you can be a proponent of? These 2 o'clock in the afternoon meetings on a Tuesday, they don't mean for the average working person to be there. Can you expound on your position?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm not sure if you're all aware, but last year I did advocate, actually last summer, I advocated for this issue to change the time of the board meetings to make it easier to get people to participate and show up. So to be very candid with you, when you have the business and the work session, those are important items we're voting on, yes, but they're also very mundane. What I see since I've been in this role is that people want to show up at the zoning nights, the public hearing nights. Because again, if, for example, someone's going to wants to propose a waste transfer station by your house or an apartment complex that you want to speak in opposition to, currently our meetings don't start till 7. We have several proclamations recognizing different groups. We may not actually start a meeting till close to 8 o'clock. And if you go back and look at the article in which we made this an issue, it was after we had a meeting that went on to 1:12 in the morning.
Yes.
So if you're a working class person like myself, or you have a small child like myself, to sit and wait hours on end so you can have the opportunity to voice your opinion on a zoning case that affects you and your family is ridiculous. And in fact, when we researched this issue, only 7 counties in Georgia start their meetings at 7 p.m. All of those counties, the other 6 counties that start their meetings at 7 are in North Georgia, right? They're in the mountains with less population, less development, less interest. So, Penny, I could not agree with you more. I would love to have an open, honest conversation about changing the public hearing times to be more convenient and conducive to the schedules of working class clinicians. Now, with that said, as I said before, Penny, I'm one of 5. So if this is an issue that's important to you and your members, again, engage your commissioners, reach out to folks. Let's have that conversation. And again, We have a new member, right, in the Matthew Holcamp. The last time this came up, he was not on the board. So this is an opportunity to bring him into the fold to find out what his opinion is on this issue.
Okay, again, we have Commissioner Kirkland Carden, District 1, in with us this evening. We started the broadcast and only hit the live button as we were into it. I'm just going to be totally transparent. So many of us, they heard most of what you said because we led with you. And when we opened the floor, that is when we were back live. So I want to make sure that people are understanding what we are talking about. And we're saving housing for last because we do have housing questions in here. But we talked about the disparity studies that is not being done. We've been smoke screens with all types of equity study, but an equity study does not have the legal weight of a data-driven disparity study. So when you see that word again, equity study, it is not giving us the information that we as a community need. It does not do the disaggregation of the data. It does not show the economic imbalance as to where the contracts are. So again, when you hear the word studies, make sure it is not equity. Question as to what that means. We talked about the decriminalization of marijuana. We talked about the times that the board is meeting where the meeting times are inconvenient so that people are not able to get into the room so that their voice can be heard. And the next thing we really want to talk about, because we have Tabitha Trammell, who had a question as to how citizens can return to Gwinnett. I'm going to read it from our audience. Tabitha Trammell had a question: what's in place for for returning citizens to Gwinnett County? And as a licensed real estate agent, I'm even going to get more transparent with that. People cannot afford to purchase a home in Gwinnett County. I'll say that one more time. People, African American people, where our median income is not in the range of $350 to $400, where the median price is at right now in Gwinnett, cannot afford to live here. And we see the gentrification of Lawrenceville. We see the gentrification of Beaufort. We've seen other cities being gentrified in Gwinnett County, and we see building everywhere, building of hospitals, parks. We see 300 to 450 plus median income housing going up. We see stores. We see everything but affordable housing. I had particularly gone to the commission, talked with the BLC chair, and to ask for a housing department in Gwinnett County. We still do not have one. Matt Elder is no. Let me finish. Matt Elder is under the Economic Development Board. He does. There is no title housing director in Gwinnett County. I'm going to say that once more. There is no title of housing director in Gwinnett County. So there is no one who is directly.
That's not entirely correct.
Let me finish. I'll let you answer. From looking at your line of succession, of accountability and titles, because one of the things that Gwinnett County does is keep people confused on who's in charge or what departments we actually have. To find that is so difficult. That's another issue. But I have purposely looked. There is no title housing director. Please, Commissioner Carden, educate on educate us on who is the equivalent to a housing director.
Okay, so spring of 2022, the Board of Commissioners created a division of housing, which is under the Planning and Development Department. So there are 14 different departments in Gwinnett County, Georgia, as of today. Planning and Development is the department that deals with your permits, your rezonings, your inspections, the more technical stuff that deals with development. Under that new division, we created, again, the housing division. We appointed Matt Elder to lead that division. In that budget request, or that agenda item that was approved, there were 10 positions under the housing division. The purpose of the housing division is to assist us in all our different efforts to address housing and housing affordability in Gwinnett County, Georgia. At our last meeting and on our informal discussion, we had a presentation by that division director, Matt Elder, where he talked about some of the new programs we are working to implement since he's took that position. Now, I don't have the presentation in front of me. I can't give you all the details, but one thing I do remember is that $9.4 million in ARPA money, which is federal assistance money, will be used in various different programs to help expand affordable housing options in Gwinnett County, Georgia, and help private sector developers reduce the cost of development to help them incentivize and underwrite the creation of new affordable housing in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Also keep in mind, in 2020, we started the process of a housing study. Not me, it was on the last group of commissioners. So Marlene, Jace Brooks, that group. But it was concluded March of last year, and we had a presentation, a whole day, where we reviewed it May of 2022. I think I remember seeing, if not you, a member of the NAACP in the crowd during that briefing. But it was a very comprehensive document that laid out policy recommendations for us to expand the housing in Gwinnett County, Georgia. And I'm gonna give you some additional numbers because Penny, you are exactly right. It is getting hard for people in Gwinnett to live in Gwinnett. In May of 2022, the median house in Gwinnett County, Georgia, the median house cost sold for $400,000. The median income in Gwinnett County is less than $78,000 a year. Last year alone, zero homes sold for $200,000 or less. That means if the market is left to act on its own, it's going to leave a lot of people behind, a lot of those legacy residents behind. So as a result of that study, there were policy recommendations, short-term and long-term, for us to address. The housing division, using ARPA funds, help incentivizing developments, that was the short-term stuff. The long-term stuff that was in the recommendation was creating changes to our economic development ordinance that will give private sector developers the monetary incentive, the money incentive to develop new workforce housing, whether it's tax abatements or attracting tax credit developments in Gwinnett County, Georgia, which have proven to work all across America. But one of the biggest challenges to affordable housing in Gwinnett County is that the population is growing and the production of housing is nowhere near that market demand. Gwinnett County went through the Great Recession and we were ravaged by it. And the development levels never fully recovered after that. We're the fastest growing county in the Southeast, and we just have failed to output enough development to meet that market demand. It is simple economics. So we can have the tools, short-term and long-term, but to get a handle on this, we are going to need to create more homes at different types. Single family, townhomes, apartments, missing middle, all the above. to meet the market demand that we're seeing here in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Now, I want to close by saying this because you hit a really good point, Penny, when you talked about the different cities. There's 16 cities in Gwinnett, completely independent from the county government, right? You have elected leadership and myself and others that acknowledge the problems with affordable housing. We've done the studies. We're working to make the policy recommendations to implement it, but we can't do it by ourselves. We're in this thing together. And some cities, more than others, have helped contribute to help move the ball forward on affordable housing. The city of Norcross is doing great work with their downtown development authority. They got a commission that wants, or a council that wants to increase tax credit developments. That's great. But for these cities in Gwinnett, which again, we have no control over as commissioners, if we want to expand the inventory of affordable housing, we also have to encourage our mayors and our city council people to act on this issue too. So they just don't say, let Kirk and Nicole and others deal with it. No, they need to be with us pushing for new policies as well, doing their own studies to help address the housing crisis we're seeing in Gwinnett.
Okay, so as a 25-year real estate professional, licensed professional in the state of Georgia, after that Great Recession, it was African American and Black people who lost those homes. And again, like you said, those homes were never replaced. What happened, they were sold for pennies on the dollars. People sat on those homes. Investors purchased those homes, and they're the ones who drove up prices in Gwinnett County that started. It was not lack of housing, it was um, the purposeful running up of these prices with supply and demand, keeping houses off of the market so that their availability was scarce. And then when homes started to be built, these monies that came down federally, and we can even talk about ARPA funds right now, these monies that came down, they come through the county. The county distributes and acts as fiscal sponsors for a lot of these cities. And these monies have been given to developers who are a part of the Gwinnett County housing system, and they are floating bonds. And the bonds that they are floating are being used by builders to create this housing. There has not been a demand from the county to say we need affordable housing. These bonds that are being floated so that these builders can get low interest loans. A lot of them are friends, a lot of them are family of the county, and a lot of this has been unchecked. What the working people have been getting, the working people have been getting housing where they are renting housing now. Gwinnett County is letting rental homes be built purposely with exorbitant prices that many still cannot afford. So the
So
county,
can I chime in
let me
on something?
well, let me finish because I'm not speaking as an average Joe. I'm speaking as a professional who worked through the Great Recession, who
Yes, ma'am. I
saw what
understand.
was done, who saw homes that people were sitting on, who saw homes that were not being sold purposely
Okay.
to run up the pricing in Gwinnett. What Gwinnett County and I have approached the Board of Commission Chair Nicole Love Hendricks several times to say that what is being built, the monies that are being built by the Housing Committee, commission that is attached to the Board of Commissions, one of the 52 committees, they are not building affordable housing. When will this county be responsible to build affordable housing so that it's not dependent upon your ability to pay $350 to $400, $400,000, but on the fact that everyone should have the opportunity to live in a community that they have been in, like you say, the legacy. Also, um, everybody should have the opportunity to be able to use a Section 8. Gwinnett County had a moratorium on Section 8 and was not even accepting it here. And it's not until lately that that has been accepted again. So all of these devices that had been put in place to help us have affordable housing has not been used. And when we're addressing these situations and asking these questions, as myself, as I have been doing and showing up at these meetings, talking to Matt Elder, he does not have a pliable answer that says we will build housing under $300,000 that the citizens can afford in Gwinnett. Matt Elder does not have an answer to that question. Now, that is, I probably more than likely should have him on here to he can respond to what I just said. No problem. I will make sure that he is invited to the next meeting to refute anything I said. But
Can I
again,
have an
I and
opportunity to
several
review?
people have asked him that question, and he doesn't have an answer.
Madam Chair, can I give you an answer to the housing demand?
Sure.
So again, going back to the housing study that took 2 years to prepare, a formal document from Gwinnett County, the development pace that we're seeing in Gwinnett meets 25% of the market demand. So if this is the development rate, this is the demand. It's significantly higher. It is a simple microeconomics problem. The supply is nowhere near the demand, which means people will pay outrageous amounts of money to get a home. It is that simple. That's why you see these single family homes have 40, 45 different offers on it. People are willing to pay above asking price, waive all inspections because it is literally a knife fight to get single family homes or apartments, which have an occupancy rate of in the high 90s. This is all across Gwinnett County, Georgia. That also too drives up the cost of rent. So again, we can create different tools to incentivize the creation of things like tax credit housing. We can look at tax abatements, waiving property taxes to make it a little bit cheaper to get into a home. But the biggest thing we can do as a county is to create more homes that meet the market demand. As a commissioner, as an elected official of a county, I have no control over the private sector and market demands in this county or really in this country. That's not how it works.
Well, let me say this way. Looking at the Gwinnett County Housing Authority, that authority creates several projects for the people of Gwinnett. Why, and especially in our community, we rely on government is because private enterprise is biased. Private enterprise seeks certain demographics, seeks certain markets, but it is the government who makes sure that all its citizens have a place to live, to eat, to be healthy and well. Gwinnett County, prior to 2020, had no response to its citizens on being responsible, on having departments that took care and were accountable to its citizens. Now, after 2021, we have a new organizational chart, but there's still no one in that organization who has the ability to get those dollars and say we will incentivize these private investors to build low income housing. No one is incentivizing them to do that. the
Well,
the
well,
job of
remember what I said
the
about the
job. Let me
ARPA money.
finish. The job.
Remember
Well, let me
again.
finish. The job of the government is to ensure that all citizens are represented. But when we use this housing authority that's part of the commission, they are giving bonds, making low interest loans to companies who are not accountable to the people of Gwinnett.
So, Ms. Poole, again, I want to remind you that one of the recommendations from Matthew Elder at our last meeting was to use ARPA money, federal assistance money, to help incentivize the creation of workforce housing, new supply of housing in Gwinnett County, Georgia. That presentation, you can reach out to myself, you can reach out to Matt Elder, and you can learn more about what we are planning to do. I
Okay.
will close by, let me end by saying this. Historically, Gwinnett has not made housing a priority. If you look at our economic development ordinance, it's created to encourage commercial businesses, commercial development. For
Exactly.
many years, the approach was build the warehouse, the residential will come. It was an afterthought. That's no longer the case, right? And one of the things that, again, I didn't vote for the guy, but one of the things that I did like about Brian Kemp that he made an issue earlier this year was addressing the workforce housing component of economic development. So as I said, historically, housing was not an issue. We're year number 3 in a 4-year term. So given the short amount of time we've had in office, we've completed a study, we've made a division, we've outlined new programs to use federal assistance money to help create new housing. And as I said before, we're building a toolkit, the long-term policy recommendations to help expand housing. To me, in 3 years, that should tell you you have a board of commissioners willing to make inroads on the housing problem, housing crisis we're facing.
Commissioner Carter, I really, really want to thank you for being so transparent and open. To answer um, these questions, because even a lot of these questions, were things that happened before your term began. I want to
Mhm.
make that very clear that before 2020, African Americans had no one who was responding to us at the Gwinnett County Commission. We wrote letters without responses. We went into meetings without responses. We have had in 2021, we have had people return calls, but now we're at the point where we're at another impasse because, like you said, housing was not a number one priority. But for people who are in Gwinnett, many are homeless because it was put on the back burner. Many had to leave the county. Many are sleeping in cars.
Mhm.
The true picture, rather than this be a priority, again, as you said, it was put on the back burner. So now that the housing costs, not just here, but in the metro area, as a matter of fact, to get a home, below 300,000, you have to travel outside of metro. As a
Mhm.
matter of fact, I had someone who looked to purchase a home the beginning of last year, and that person had to go to Macon to purchase a home, who initially thought they could find something in metro Atlanta.
Mhm.
So I'm saying to say that this being on the back burner, this not being a number one priority, has hurt many African American and other people of color here in Gwinnett. And
Well,
we see that housing needs to be put as a priority along with economic development, because without housing, people cannot thrive or survive or have live without without all the barriers and other entries into a fruitful life.
well, I want to add 3 more things onto the housing piece. And look, you're exactly right. I do think going forward, we need to also think about senior housing. In the next 10 years, we're going to have a lot more seniors than we do now. And we have to be intentional. The board has to be intentional about when we approve these projects, whether it's tax credit, income-based seniors developments, or deed restricted senior developments. We got to have housing for folks as they age gracefully in our community. First, that's number one. Also, number two, let's not forget about the property taxes that residents and small business owners have to pay on their properties. That too, I feel like sometimes that's missing in the affordable housing discussion. But if your taxes are rising in your home that you, or your apartment, right, that you rent, that too can make a difference on whether you're able to continue to rent that apartment or you're pushed out elsewhere, right? Like you said, Macon or further out, and if you can stay in the Gwinnett community. So senior housing and property taxes, I know we don't necessarily hear a lot about that with affordable housing, but those are also two issues we got to focus on too. And I do want to add one more thing, and then I'll shush on the housing thing. You know, every time we've had a rezoning come before the Board of Commissioners, so long as, and it's an affordable housing deal, so long as it's had staff approval and planning commission approval, I voted on it, right? I vote on it because I recognize the need of affordable housing in our capital. We desperately need it. And I guess my promise to y'all will be, so long as we get proposals that meet that technical review, meet that planning commission review, I will lean towards supporting it. And we need to be aggressive about it if we're going to address the issue.
Again, Commissioner Kirkland Carden, District 1. We said some things here tonight. You're blocking there. We see you now. We said some things here tonight that our community has been wanting to say since the meeting for the BOC is in the middle of the day. Again, most of these people cannot get there. We have a comment. I didn't see any questions come across, but I did see a comment and from a P. Wills, and I'm going to read this from our audience. It says, Jim Crow Biden and Kamami have done absolutely nothing for foundational Black Americans except harm our country and communities with his insane illegal immigration policies. That's from our audience. We welcome other people to put your opinion in. I know right now, our community, and specifically I'm speaking the African American community, we're lost on everything. We're approaching Juneteenth and the Juneteenth festival coming up, when in June 19th, 1865, order number 3 came down and was brought to Houston to let the enslaved people of Texas and places far west know that the Emancipation Proclamation occurred and that they were free. All those in the slave-held slave states were free. So right now, it's almost as though we're still not getting all the information from Washington. We're not getting all the information where everybody has equal access to know how the monies flow, equal access to know how to get monies for businesses, to get health, parity in health. Right now, enslaved descendants of enslaved peoples, and I am one, proudly from South Carolina, low country, certified geek. We feel that the information is just not being properly disseminated where everybody has equal access.
Well, Penny, let me rebut that because
wait a minute. I'll give you a chance. I will give you a chance. I'm just giving a commentary.
Okay.
I am giving a commentary from, I know that the people who call our office, people who are reaching out for assistance from the NAACP, this is the verbiage we are getting. So I would be happy to allow you to rebut that. But these are the calls we get These are the voices that we are hearing. These are the demands that we're asking for. And we do not have the resources to help hardly any of these people to get the services that they need. Again, because the way the monies flow in Gwinnett County, there is not a Department of Social Services that is accountable for these things. So that will be another ask from the Gwinnett NAACP to get a Department of Social Services so that the people in Gwinnett County will know how to get the life essential services that are needed. Sir,
So
sir,
now,
let me give you the floor.
okay, so again, I can only speak for myself, no one else, but for the people who contact my office, right? We follow up with them. My assistant, which y'all know, Steen Kirby, who works with me in my office, he works with me actively and deliberately to make sure we answer phone calls and emails in a timely manner. We provide people with information, access, and we help them with their individual situations get the help they need, whether it's getting information translated, getting their trash picked up, helping them get a sign permit, or helping someone who's about to be homeless get rent and utility assistance while that program was going on. Again, I can't speak for anybody else on a federal or state level, but I do know that if anyone reaches out to me in my office, we will make time for them. Just like we did you, right? When you reached out to my office, we've always made time to, get you on the calendar, have you ask questions, provide you with information, and just give candid responses. And I pride myself on giving good constituent service, regardless of, for anybody, regardless of their background.
Okay, there was a lot said. And we thank you for being open, transparent. Again, we can go on and on about the Gwinnett County government and the things that African Americans, Black people, and other people of color need to survive and to live and thrive in this county. We're hoping that there is this disparity study is not kept on hold and that it is actually completed so that we will know exactly the needs of the people in this county and how we can make it a better place of equity and taking care of all these disparities, for the community. Um, I just went on and on. Are there any other questions? Um, are there any other questions?
I did see one. So this was someone in our Facebook group. I guess they have a foundation for formerly incarcerated women. And her question was, what's in place for returning citizens in Gwinnett County? She's referring to formerly incarcerated citizens. What's in place for them?
That's a really good question. I don't think we have an Office of Reentry Services or something like that. I think that would be, I think I would have to pivot that question to some of our other electeds, whether it's the DA or the county sheriff. I know they do a lot of good work, especially the sheriff on reentry services, making sure people get the help they need so they don't end up back in the county jail. To be candid with you, I cannot remember some of those services off the top of my head, but this is what I'll do. If you can shoot me an email at kirkland.carden@gwinnettcounty.com, I'll be happy to get that information to you and see specifically what services are available for folks who were recently incarcerated getting back to society. Now, with that said, we have a plethora of services that we offer people, that social safety net, whether it be food assistance, housing assistance, homelessness assistance. But I don't know if that fully answers your question, right? Because you can be in individual situations like that, but when you're when you're leaving incarceration, you may have a different or unique set of problems or barriers to get back into society. So again, if you can email me that question, I'll be happy to follow up with you on that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions out there? Dayton?
Yes, I have a question. You had mentioned earlier about the one of the things about housing that is overlooked, and that's property tax increases.
Mm-hmm.
And 90% of that has to do with the school property, the school tax. In my community, the school tax has gone through the roof because of the appreciation of the homes.
The valuation, correct.
Right. So in some cases, it's gone up 10, 15, 20%.
Correct.
The mortgage company can't keep up with it, so they have to try to regain all that money back and increase your mortgage $400. And one of the things that I know Cobb County does that we may not do, or we don't do well in Gwinnett County, is seniors. When seniors reach a certain age in Cobb County, they don't have to pay school tax any longer. But in Gwinnett County, I think the threshold is 104,000 of, I forgot the number that they use, but it's not significant enough for a lot of seniors who
to feel the value of that exemption, right? To feel the benefit.
That's correct. So you still, as a senior, you're still paying property taxes.
So this is what I would say to that. So yeah, the school portion of the tax. So to be very clear with you, the Board of Commissioners does absolutely nothing with schools, right? And you are exactly right. If you're a residential homeowner on your property primary address, you will be eligible for a number of different exemptions. Those exemptions don't apply to you if it's an investment property or a rental property, if you're renting a property or an apartment. Anything dealing with the school tax, I cannot help you with that. Direct that to the Gwinnett County Board of Education. However, we do have a value offset exemption that applies to, again, primary residential homeowners. So for example, I bought my house in 2021. The value of that house would be locked in perpetuity so long as I apply for that VOE. So 10 years from now, so long as I'm in the same home, I'll have the same value on my home. So I think my house was valued at $375,000. Take 40% of that. That's my taxable amount. That will be frozen in time on my county bill. So long as we don't change the millage rate, your portion, your county taxes you pay to the county government will not change. The school system does not have that. So when your house increases by 35% in valuation, your property taxes will too. And again, that's more of an issue for the school board or for the state legislature if they choose to address that issue. But I will add this. I said 60% of residents in Gwinnett County have the VOE, 40% of the residential properties, the other half of that do not. So those are people who live in rental properties, and when they get an increase in their assessment, more often than not, the person they're renting a house from will pass that cost down to them in rent. So again, making it really difficult or unaffordable to live for many. And if you live in an apartment complex, the VOE or the value offset exemption does not apply to you. No exemptions apply to you. So when that rental community sees an increase in their assessment of 35%, they pass that on in higher rent or additional fees, which again helps exacerbate the problem of high rents in Gwinnett, which are averaging around $2,000 a month. I know that was a lot. I'm sorry about that, but I guess to make a long story short, if you have questions about the school portion of the taxes, I would say direct that to the school board. And if there was an effort to get that change to be better in line with what Cobb offers their seniors, that would be something you would have to see from the school system or from the state legislature, like a local bill that would affect the taxes on your school bill. But I will add this. May of 2024, voters will have the opportunity to expand the exemption for homeowners on the school portion of the bill. And this is the first major property tax decrease that
Yes.
residents in Gwinnett will have opportunity to vote on since 1988. I was born in 88. So that's like the first time in 35 or 36 years. So if that's an issue you care about, I don't have the bill numbers in front of me, but if you email me, I'll get you that information. If that's an issue you care about, I'll be happy to share some of that information with you. And then hopefully the NAACP will promote and educate people on that as we get closer to the election.
We look to have a report card. So get ready, get ready. We're going to review platforms from 2020 and to see who has been living up to their promises. So the Gwinnett NAACP will be working hard for the upcoming elections. We want to not forget about the elections in 2023, the 16 incorporated cities that are having municipal elections. Please, the candidates will not be qualified until August 1st. Each of the cities conduct their own elections. So each city has its own rules, regulations, and instructions. Please visit your city website for municipal elections in 2023. That will happen in November. Again, thank you for talking about the millage rate and the different portions of it, the parts that the Board of Education control, and then the Gwinnett County on how they evaluate the properties.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Sure.
I have some millage rate town hall events coming up. So
Okay.
I'm actually going to be in public. I'm gonna have a PowerPoint presentation and I'm gonna talk and answer questions about your taxes, the millage rate.
So
And
if you would give us your website or your where can people go to get this information and see the
um,
schedule?
so I'll tell you the schedule right now, but you can go on the Gwinnett County website. We did put in our newsletter, but it should be on the county website on their calendar. But July 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Peachtree Corner City Hall. That will be the first one. And the next one will be Shorty Howe Park, July 20th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the second one is going to be after the board votes on the millage rate. So due to timing, last year I did both of them before the vote. Due to timing and schedules and availability, one will be before the vote, one will be after the vote. And that should be kind of cool because they give you an opportunity to say, this is why I voted the way I vote. So
Okay.
hopefully it can come out.
We had a huge conversation tonight, Commissioner Carter. Huge. We covered all types of territory. Nothing was off limits. Thank you for a no holds bar interview this evening. We want to be able to speak with our elected officials. We thank you for making yourself available tonight. I'm looking at questions. I don't see any more. We had several comments. So those comments were viewed per Facebook. But again, give us your closing remarks. We're going to give you the last remark.
Well, thanks again for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. Look, I try to be a direct and candid, person, but also believe in accessibility. So if there's anything I can ever do to be helpful to you, please reach out to me at kirkland.carden@gwinnettcounty.com. There's no issue too big or too small in which you can approach me on. And on the political side, visit my website, Gwinnett.com. It's still up from 4 years ago. And I know you talked about platforms. I challenge y'all to go review my platform and see what I talked about 3, 4 years ago, and then look at what I've actively worked to accomplish, and some things that I've actually done. We actually got passed into law that I campaigned on. I'm definitely proud of my record, and I'm looking forward to working with y'all in the future to make sure Gwinnett's a great place to live and raise a family.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we are having our Juneteenth banquet on Sunday. We know it's Father's Day, but we are excited. We want to start off with the Saturday events. We have Grits and Jelly Band. We will have a band on parade. We have our DJ. We have all types of performances, food trucks, and especially a kids village. We
Nice.
will have a place where there are arts and crafts, face painting, jump houses. We want to thank the city of Norcross Mayor Craig Newton for partnering with the Gwinnett NAACP to bring you this family friendly, informative, original, authentic Juneteenth event. Original, authentic Juneteenth event. We have a lot of people working hard. And then on that Sunday, Pastor Shields and his congregation is welcoming us to Hopewell Baptist Church, my first church here in Georgia. The beloved Pastor William L. Shields, we will be having our banquet. Our speaker will be, and let me read this because I have to get that. Our keynote speaker is Miss Tamara Lanier, and she's a plaintiff, uh, plaintiff versus the president and fellows of Harvard College. She is reclaiming items that were taken from her family. Um, who are African Americans, and she is demanding that they be returned. So Miss Lanier is walking us through her family receiving reparations from Harvard College. Also, we will be honoring community people. We have our businessman of the year, Chef Keith Cash. Everybody knows Chef Cash, especially at his Just Brunch that's in Duluth in your district.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
we have education leader Dr. Teresa Johnson Morgan for being a soldier on the education field. And of course, we have elected official Mayor Craig L. Newton, who has been sponsoring Juneteenth even before it was a national holiday. He and his city, they have been ahead of the curve, and we want to recognize them for that. Again, we have environmental specialist Ishmael T. Bunkner, faith leader Pastor William L. Shields, who has been a pioneer in developing this multi-church here in Norcross. The fellowship as a member, I remember the fellowship and all the people who came through Hopewell. It was the gateway for Black Gwinnett when people were looking for um, worship services. And we have our health professional, Astrid Ross Abashashakur. She is a mental health professional that we are recognizing. And then our youth of the year, Ivana J.M. Harris. We have a huge list of people. We will have great food by not only our chef Smoke. Everybody knows Chef Smoke. So we will be having fish, chicken, 3 vegetables. I'm getting intimate with you. So rather than going to a restaurant, come on out to our banquet. Tickets are available, and please contact us individually if you and your family are interested in coming. Oh, so much. We will be talking about reparations. We will be talking about what it means to be a descendant of enslaved African Americans. We will talk Juneteenth, all things Juneteenth. Again, we thank you all for coming. We thank you again, Commissioner. We look forward to this upcoming weekend. We will be rain or shine in Norcross. So we have an indoor facility, rain or shine in Norcross. Come on out. Blessings to the beloved community. Do we have a volunteer who wants to pray us out? I'm taking hands. If not, yes, sir.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak with one another, to bond tonight, to talk about our Gwinnett community. We shared many views, we shared a lot of opinions, and I know that the people on this call are passionate about the direction of their community. Please give us strength and good health as we move forward. In your name, your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. And please pray to your God. Thank you, everyone. Blessings from the beloved community, your Gwinnett NAACP. Good night. Be well.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Princess. Good night, President Poole.